The city never slept. The sky blazed with lights from office towers and advertisements, but Nicholas Blackwell's heart remained dim, locked in a perpetual winter. A billionaire tech magnate, he had everything the world admired: an empire, prestige, a luxury penthouse with glass walls that touched the clouds. But the silence inside those walls was deafening, since his beloved wife, Emily, had passed away 2 years earlier in a car crash that Nicholas never recovered from. Each night, Nicholas dined alone in his modern kitchen, never finishing his meal. And each night, the maid would arrive at exactly 6 p.m. Maria. Petite, quiet, and efficient, she cleaned without speaking much, always keeping her head low and voice soft. There was something about her, a sadness behind her eyes, a story untold. Nicholas had noticed. She often wore the same worn-out shoes, her hands were cracked, and her eyes, always red. And yet, she never asked for a raise, never complained. She never even looked him in the eye. But one evening, as she softly cleared the plates, he noticed her wincing while lifting a tray. Her wrist was swollen. That night, Nicholas couldn't sleep. Something was wrong. The next day, instead of returning to his study, Nicholas followed her. Maria walked blocks away from the luxury district into a part of the city where streetlights flickered and the air carried a bite. She disappeared into a run-down apartment building with crumbling stairs and graffiti-lined walls. Nicholas parked nearby, watching from the shadows. From a cracked window, he saw everything. Maria entered the tiny apartment and was instantly engulfed by a fragile little boy, no older than 6. He had pale skin, hollow cheeks, and bandages around his arms. An oxygen machine hummed beside him. Maria knelt, holding him close, whispering something with tears in her eyes. Nicholas spotted medical bills on the table. A hospital file with the words, leukemia. Stage 3. Then, a loud bang. A man stormed in, tall, menacing, with alcohol on his breath and hatred in his eyes. He was Maria's stepbrother, Kyle, and he began shouting. "You gave the money to the hospital again? Where's my cut, Maria?" Maria stood between him and her son. "I won't let you take from him. Not anymore." Kyle raised his hand. Nicholas couldn't stay hidden any longer. He kicked open the door, stormed inside, and grabbed Kyle by the collar. "Touch her again and I will end you," Nicholas growled. Maria screamed in shock as Kyle tried to fight, but Nicholas shoved him down. Police sirens echoed in the distance. Nicholas had already called them. That night, Nicholas took Maria and her son, Leo, to a private hospital. The best doctors were assigned. Tests were done. The boy would need aggressive treatment, but there was hope. Maria, sobbing, tried to thank Nicholas, but he only said, "You should never have had to go through this alone." For the first time, she smiled. Faint, grateful, overwhelmed. Over the next few weeks, Nicholas visited Leo daily. He read him bedtime stories, brought him astronaut toys, and even worked remotely from the hospital. Maria slowly let her guard down. They began talking more, about Leo's favorite cartoons, about Emily, and about Maria's childhood in Guatemala. Her life had been one of survival, sacrifice, and strength. Nicholas learned Maria had once been a top student in her village, dreaming of becoming a nurse. But her stepfather had crushed those dreams. When her mother died, Maria had escaped to the U.S. undocumented, working long hours to survive. She sent every penny home until she learned her sister had died from untreated pneumonia. Nicholas listened in silence. "You were meant for more," he said one night, gently. "No," Maria replied, holding Leo's hand. "He is my more." Weeks later, rumors swirled around Nicholas's company. Someone was leaking information about his scandalous relationship with a maid. Investors grew nervous. The culprit? Veronica Chase. Veronica, the ICVP of strategy and a former friend of Nicholas's late wife, had always resented Maria's presence. She twisted the story, implying Maria had seduced Nicholas to manipulate him. In boardrooms and back channels, Veronica whispered lies, he's mentally unstable. Throwing company money on some servant and her child. What Veronica didn't realize was that Nicholas was documenting everything. He hired private investigators who exposed her secret offshore accounts and fake vendors funneling millions. Maria overheard a conversation between Veronica and other board members. That night, she packed a bag and left. She left a note. "You saved my son's life, and I'll never forget your kindness. But I can't let you lose your empire because of me. Please forget us." Nicholas was shattered. Again. But this time, he refused to be helpless. He launched a personal investigation into Veronica, exposing her corrupt practices. Misusing funds, insider trading, and defamation. But even more, he used his platform to tell the real story to the public. He hosted a press conference and said, "Maria is not a scandal. She is a hero. A mother who gave up her safety, her dignity, to save her child. If my company doesn't stand for people like her, then it stands for nothing." The world responded. Social media exploded in Maria's defense. People from all walks of life shared their own stories of struggle, of being unseen. Donations poured in for leukemia research. Veronica was arrested and publicly disgraced. Nicholas found Maria working at a shelter kitchen weeks later. Leo was healthier, smiling, his hair slowly growing back. Maria tried to speak, but Nicholas held her hand. "You don't run from people who care. You stand beside them. Come home." She cried in his arms. Epilogue, 1 year later. The penthouse wasn't silent anymore. It was filled with laughter. Leo had a bedroom filled with rocket ship posters and stuffed animals. Maria stood by Nicholas's side, not as a maid, but as his partner in life. They were married in a quiet ceremony. Leo held the rings. Nicholas adopted him as his own. They built a foundation in Emily's memory, a pediatric cancer support organization. The first shelter was named Maria's Hope. Maria gave talks to young mothers, while Nicholas used his influence to build clinics in underserved neighborhoods. They traveled to Guatemala and funded a new children's hospital in the village Maria had grown up in. In time, Leo recovered completely. He began school, made friends, and often told others his dad was a superhero. But when asked what made his dad so special, Leo once replied, "Because he saw my mom when no one else did." A documentary titled "The Maid Who Changed a Billionaire's Heart" aired across major streaming platforms. It highlighted not only Maria's story, but also the power of unseen heroes in everyday life. Thousands wrote letters saying the story gave them hope, and inspired them to act with compassion. One evening, Nicholas stood on the hospital rooftop with Maria and Leo watching the stars. Leo pointed up. "That one's Mom Emily's star," he said. "She's watching us." Nicholas smiled. "And she's proud." One day, a reporter asked Nicholas, "What made you follow her that night?" He smiled. "Because sometimes, angels walk among us wearing aprons. And I was lucky enough to notice one. Some angels walk quietly among us, unnoticed, until we truly see them. And when we choose compassion over comfort, the world changes, one act at a time." And love? Sometimes it waits for us behind a broken window, in a dark apartment, in the most unexpected hands of someone who just needed a chance. And when we give them that chance, they don't just change, they change us too.